Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. I'm GetGoodGuy, and my Christmas/illness break has officially come to an end now. If you saw my previous video from a few days back, you can probably tell my voice is much better now, thankfully. So we're getting right back into the swing of things just before the start of 2020, ready to get you a ton of content to watch. So if you're new here, obviously you should subscribe. I mean, duh, right? I'd subscribe to me without any bias at all. And this video is brought to you today by my merch. Yep, get it now while you can. I'll be retiring these original designs at some point in the near future. It's your classic GetGoodGuy look, and it makes you look approximately 23 times more attractive, which is a lot. Link is in the description and my pinned comment. And so today I'm bringing to you my list of the best close quarters guns for every class in Battlefield 5 as of right now. It is of course just my opinion rather than an official list, designed to entertain and hopefully help at least some of you out. Your part of the deal is to watch and of course enjoy, hopefully, and also provide your list of the best close range gun for each class in the comments below, one for each. Either now or at the end of the video, whichever you prefer, and all of this information today is accurate as of late December 2019. And so let's jump straight into this, and my best close range gun for the assault class is the M1907 SF. But this one's kinda sad, and I'll tell you why. It's because I was all set to finally try to show the Sturmgewehr 1-5 some love. I was so willing to try to find a reason to place that weapon as being in an actually viable state for optimal performance. With the new TTK changes, I was sure it would have a solid role. And I originally made today's thumbnail featuring it, and I was wrong. It's not that it's bad as such, it's just that I guess unsurprisingly right now, the balancing is off. Because the M1907 is better than the Sturmgewehr when it comes to time to kill at least, out to 40 meters, and actually then it isn't that much worse than it, out to 50 meters, followed by barely being worse than it out to like 75 meters, and then it's actually superior again for raw time to kill out to 120 meters. So basically the Sturmgewehr 1-5 in terms of time to kill doesn't have a purpose at all. And now with so many guns being near total laser beams, these two guns in question being good examples, that doesn't really make much sense. And actually, the STG is better than the Sturmgewehr at all ranges for time to kill. Yes, you heard me correctly, the STG is better than the Sturmgewehr 1-5 at all ranges for time to kill. Ah, DICE, you really messed this one up. And so almost by default, the M1907 SF takes the win for the close range option of assault. The Sturmgewehr is out of the running, the semi-autos obviously are, and by the way, the semi-autos are objectively weak now compared to a fair few other options in the game. So if you aren't seeing many of them on the battlefield anymore, that's probably why. And back to the point, the M1907 SF beats the STG for time to kill out to around 40 meters, as long as you land your damage of course, which is all easier to do now with most guns due to the lack of recoil as I just said, and also the snap lock on auto rotation if you choose to use it on controllers. Now you may be getting the idea here that I think weapon balance is royally screwed, and I do, but rather than go into extreme detail in this video and kind of miss all the points of what we're supposed to be talking about, I'll be dedicating an entire video to that topic soon so you guys can get a better understanding of the state of the game at present and see why those that analyze stats keep complaining about the balancing, because honestly it's really messed up, even after they tweet the TTK again recently. And so the M1907 SF is a great example of a lot of this game right now. It can take a lot of bullets to kill people, up to like 10 bullets at long range, but it's very easy to land that damage due to the near non-existent recoil now. A true laser beam weapon within a laser beam game, which is kinda sad, but here we are. And most importantly today, it's pretty damn lethal at close range, capable of dropping an enemy in around 0.25 seconds within 10 meters. And now that's really fast, even beating out the Suomi of the medic class, as long as it doesn't have light bolt equipped of course. Now you must also consider that using this weapon means you have 10 less rounds to utilize than the STG, and you can't constantly self-heal, whereas you can with SMGs, many of which also have very fast times to kill at close range anyway, which is why, despite the apparent lethality of it that you've watched so far in the footage, it's not a very popular option, and actually it isn't an optimal choice overall, highlighting the less than fantastic spot that assault is in when it specifically comes to close range fights. It's purely due to weird balancing and an overly dominant STG. But alas, the M1907 SF is my pick for the best close range gun of the assault class, just don't expect to see many of them. Okay, moving on, after that lengthy and actually accidentally wide-ranging discussion about assault, we come to the medic class and I've gone for the Tommy gun, otherwise known as the M1928A1, and actually, if this video just so happens to be seen by any controlling powers at DICE, not that they generally tend to listen to anyone, I'd highly advise avoiding weapon names like that. Stop using M1918 blah blah, like, come on. There are other things you can call these guns that would still be accurate, recognizable, and more memorable. Anyway, besides the point, this selection basically ended up coming down to a fight between the Thompson and the Suomi. And I couldn't really decide, so I ended up going to KHT120, some of you may be aware of him. He's one of those guys who analyzes all of the weapon stats, and he's involved with sim.gg, and he said he'd go for the Thompson, as it kills just 1 frame slower than the Suomi, but has a much better reload. And considering that I use the Thompson more than the Suomi, I'm willing to go along with that choice. And this thing really does shred people. It can be truly dominant at close range. But remember that DICE have made weapons now only really fit very defined ranges, aside from some outliers like the STG, the jungle carbine, etc. So the Thompson basically sucks by comparison anywhere out of very close range. As soon as you're out of hipfire range, its damage gets hit pretty hard. However, some may say that's exactly how it's supposed to be. I'm not going to get into that argument today. And we don't have to worry about it today anyway, as this is the close range list. And it's just a breeze to use here. You can of course go for the light bolt specialization for a faster rate of fire, standing at 900 RPM, but considering that you only get 20 rounds using that, and with it already being so lethal, especially now due to the weapon balance changes and guns only really being good for specific situations, well, I prefer to stick to the 720 RPM rate of fire and make use of the extended 50 round magazine. It does stupid work like this if you can stay close, great for things like team deathmatch as you're watching here, or larger modes on maps that have a lot of confined spaces. For example, it can destroy people in the right areas on Operation Underground. And so yeah, what more do I need to explain that you don't already know? The Tommy gun is supposed to be good at close range, and well, it is. Very, very good in fact. Even though most people are using the Type 100 for increased range, or a lot of knowledgeable players are trying out the EMP or the MAB-34, the Tommy gun is my pick for specifically close range fights using the medic class. Okay, moving on to the support class, and this shouldn't require much explaining. I've gone for a shotgun, the 12G, because they're built for close range, and shotguns are in an interesting spot currently. Not quite as strong as they were when compared with other options before the TTK was tweaked after it was changed. What a sentence that is. That's how much this game actually fluctuates in terms of how it performs when you play it, and the guns and whatever. Yep, you gotta try and stay on top of all these changes all the time. But yeah, despite not being a versatile option, of course, with many maps not really supporting shotgun play for a lot of modes, well, on the right mode in the right area, shotguns can smash. And the 12G is dirty. This used to be my least favorite shotgun, but not anymore. Now, I could of course gone for the KE7 or the BAR or whatever, and they are solid options. In fact, I picked the KE7 as the easy weapon for the support class recently. But this is about close range dominance, and the shotguns just have this. Annoyingly so when you're up against them. I've selected the 12G because we don't need the long range capability of the M30 drilling for this list, and I've selected it over my former favourite, the M1897, because of the 12G's faster rate of fire even without trigger job, and its ability to have 7 shots per reload. But honestly, either one can do serious damage in CQC as you'd expect, and there's the option of using slug rounds if you prefer for more precision and range. But for close quarters, I'm opting for traditional buckshot, and the 12G is my choice for the best close range gun of the support class. And now we come to the recon class, and I've selected the trench carbine. But this one makes me kinda sad, because the best gun for close range for this class now just pales in comparison when compared with those of other classes. This gun basically got completely changed, and I don't know if some people are aware of that. It's got a different damage model and I believe a different rate of fire, and it's just basically not as good now. I know some people still swear by it, and I've heard some people say it's really good, but when using it I could tell it just isn't as viable as it was before the TTK changes. And looking at the stats, it's apparent why. It's objectively a weak close range designated weapon now. I don't know if this is accidental or by design, but it just can't compete like it used to. Possibly because DICE don't want a recon weapon that can beat out other close range guns, I'm not sure, but in that case I feel like it might be a little pointless, especially when medics with SMGs can heal constantly and recon spotting flares have been nerfed, which was formerly the main advantage of using the trench carbine. So this gun is just worse now, literally worse, and I really liked it before. It's still the best close range option for recon because, well, there's barely any competition. It's a class built around long range engagements. The only real competition is the P08 carbine, but its forced semi-auto nature and smaller magazine generally writes it off pretty quickly for most players. So the trench carbine can still be full auto with the right specialization. It now fires at 450 rounds per minute, it, requires between 4 and 9 bullets to kill, I think, if my memory serves me well, and it can be fun, but it's just outclassed overall. If we compare it with the MAB-38 of the medic class, that SMG is designed more so for mid-range rather than close range, and yet it has almost the same time to kill as the trench carbine out to 10 meters, and then flat out destroys it after that, whilst also, I'd argue, being easier to use and having the ability to perpetually self-heal due to being a medic. So yeah, maybe some of you will say this is how it's supposed to be due to it being a recon weapon, and maybe you're right, maybe you aren't. I don't know, depends upon your perspective. But balancing wise, this gun now isn't really worth it, especially with weaker spotting flares, and yet it's still the best close range gun for the recon class. And so that's my list of the best close range guns for every class in Battlefield 5. Remember to tell me what you think in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leaving a like for me would be awesome. Subscribe and turn on notifications to catch my future content, plus follow my stream and join my Discord server in the description and my pinned comment. Here's the board of awesome for the epic people who support the channel on Patreon. They're all absolute heroes and I love them all deeply and of course, often. If you want to join them on the board of awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description and my pinned comment. And with that all said, I'm GetGoodGuy and I'll see you next time. Laters. Whilst remaining somewhat consistent in terms of its ethos, Battlefield, I wouldn't say it's ever evolving, it just changes. It doesn't necessarily get better. That there's good and there's bad and they're completely confusing. Like the weapon balance right now is objectively terrible if you know what you're doing when you look at the stats.